So hi everyone, thanks for joining us, and you're really welcome. So I am Caroline, and I work as a producer in Prox Reverie, and this.
I'm Martin Taylor. I'm one of the co-founders of Prox Reverie and the creative director in the company as well. And Interchange is kind of one of our major projects we've been working on.
And if you want to follow us, if you are any of these things, or if you have any questions or comments, we would love to know any of your feedback. So you can do that throughout the session, or you can contact us on them afterwards.
And similarly, if you want to see more details about the project, you can come and talk to us after as well.
So this is Prox Reverie.
Yeah, so we're based in the north of England in a town called Doncaster, and this is our building. We've actually got, I can actually just show you here. We've got all of this space around the middle, and then we're extending out into this section here. So it's a kind of big infrastructure project that we're developing, and exploring what you can do in mixed reality once you have bigger lab spaces and infrastructure in place. If you don't know where Doncaster is, it's in South Yorkshire, which is just a hop, skip and a jump on the train from London, and we're based about 5 minutes from the station. So we're a locally based studio, but we do operate internationally as well. So we work in LA and New York, and I also have we do a bit of business in Australia as well, so and throughout Europe.
And this is what we do. So we're quite unique, really, in that we do the stories and the content creation, as well as making the tools to allow these stories to breathe and to happen. And all of that is within our facility, The Forge, all the facilities and infrastructure.
And so there's four main elements that we focus on. So story, design, innovation. And so how do you tell new types of stories using immersive technologies? One of our specialist areas is gateways to, we were calling it the Metaverse before it became the M word recently. And what does that actually mean? How do you actually do that? And where do you go? And then a big part of the kind of DNA of everything is performances and avatars. So bringing people in and out of these immersive spaces and experiences. And then the other thing that we're exploring is how do you reach out and touch something in the virtual space as well? How do we create these tactile interactions that take it beyond just waving around your hands in the air kind of thing? And as far as the industry goes, most of the focus has been on the stories and content and tools and products. So it's been headsets and the content for headsets. But we're kind of looking at the industrial side of things. How do you really bring that into an industrial setting and kind of expand out with facilities and infrastructure?
And just to ask, actually, how many of you know about XR, AR, VR? Have any of you? Yeah. Does anyone not have any idea? Just so we can let you know, or is everybody pretty familiar? Okay, good to know.
Got a bunch of techies. That's good. So our sweet spot is it was around 2018, 2019. It felt like the spectrum completed. So it started with virtual reality. AR really started to kick off, but then now you can take an idea from pure imagination all the way through and deliver it into any of these mediums. Virtual, augmented. And this is our specialist area here up on the right hand side, which is designing specific physical infrastructure alongside virtual experiences. And so how do those things marry? So it's really around the hybrid experiences that is our main focus. And we do have a short kind of sizzle reel, which is just to give you a bit of an idea of what it looks like in our studio and the kind of activities that we do.
go. Yeah. Make that go. Make, 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 make,
Thank you.
It's like a dance music festival. Yeah, that was me on a bad day. So you can kind of get a little impression from that teaser clip that we are an aggregator within the industry. So we're looking at combining new kind of exploring new combinations of these technologies and kind of aggregate it all together. But Caroline will just kind of walk you through the kind of principles behind why we've set up the studio in this way.
So all stories, they always exist in the imagination, in somebody's imagination. Since, for thousands of years, humans have been telling stories, and, these are all about characters and worlds. And in the last, in thousands of years, we've been using physical mediums, so things like printed media and books to do that. In the last 100 years, it's moved into digital. So we've had the film industry, the TV industry, and then we've had phones as well. And they've had time to sort of build the infrastructure and the business models and all the things around it to make that happen. Even though they're very much all doing the same things, they're all about stories, worlds, characters, reaching people and allowing people to engage and feel things. And then this has happened, and this has all happened really, really fast. So, we've seen AR and VR, and now it's, we've got the next thing, which, the Metaverse has come on stream. And this is there's just so many tools, there's so many platforms, there's so many immersive players in this space, all offering different things, but they don't necessarily join up, and it's quite fragmented, it's quite complicated. So for the screen industries, which is quite traditional media, this can be really confusing to navigate. And we're talking about all these different kinds of worlds. So we have the physical world, virtual world, parts of each, weaving in and out of each as well. So we saw a real challenge with this that we really wanted to address. And we wanted to be able to bring all these different tools and platforms and ways of working together in one place, which is our studio system. So the idea is to stack these in one place so that a client, and there's lots of sectors who want to get into this, can approach us with the same things. We're talking about stories in the world of the imagination, that they want to reach audiences. And we have an incredible team that come from such a range of backgrounds. So they come from physical world, they come from theatre, they come from virtual and games. And with all that knowledge and all of our tools and our workflow, we're able to create really a one-stop shop for that, to create an experience that is both and all of these things. So this has really helped us to work with film, TV industries to do all these things, and their outputs are quite different and varied as well. And they go across lots of different platforms. Sometimes the output is virtual, sometimes it's physical. And these are some of the examples of what they are. So there's so many steps in this. There's kind of capturing the physical world, real world sites and people, and then taking that into, making prototypes and stories, bringing that back maybe into virtual world. Sometimes one thing we're really specializing in is then that blend of taking that back into the physical world. And you can see some of the examples of this, of weaving in and out of this. So, and different industries, some of them do this, some parts of this themselves, but we have the ability to sort of help them with all the steps of this rather than just parts of the steps of this, which allows us to make sure that story, that world of the imagination, really reaches the audience in the way that it needs to. So Martin, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, these are shots from the lab itself. I'll just kind of explain a couple of things. So we do volumetric capture, we do motion capture, we do physical prototyping, and we can take in big groups and we can condense. It's really that initial R&D phase where you, traditionally in the industry, you're taking a brief, you're creating a project, and then you really find out what the result is once it's complete. We want to bring the completion experience all the way back to the first tenth of the process. And so to do that, as Caroline was talking about, we've created this stacked reality system. It's like a big holodeck. It's like a live system that's on all the time. So we can track objects and people and capture things and scan things and kind of bring it all together. And what that does is it kind of addresses some of the challenges in the industry. The last project I worked on, I had to go to six studios in 3 countries to put the project together, and we've just thought there's a better way of doing it than that. But then what you actually get to is some new possibilities, once you have this system in place, and that's really where this project Interchange came from. So we were interested in pitching for and trying to win competitions. The UK is fairly unique in its approach. It really does celebrate innovation in a way that some other countries don't relish as much. So there's these programs that they run, and you can apply to them as innovation labs. So we were very happily successful in this bid to work with Warner Media on a project that is based around next generation fan experiences, connecting fans with IP characters and worlds and things like that. And so the project that we came up with was called Interchange, and it's only really possible because of the studio system that we have in place as the kind of bedrock of that innovation platform. So it's called Interchange because it's really based around this idea that you can connect with characters and worlds wherever they are. So they are, whether you're going from the physical to the virtual or place to place. And so we were kind of, this is, the backdrop is our kind of studio. And really for Warner Media, it was, the interest is, you get to meet your heroes or villains, depends if what you're into, and connect people and places with characters and worlds. And so it's a framework system that we've kind of built. And I do have a video to show, but I'll just explain a couple of the steps before, because we get a lot of questions on, well, how do you even experience this kind of project and product? So the way we approached this, and it's still our approach, with everything we do, we're looking at least 6 months ahead in where the technology is going. So when we first started kind of presenting the project, 5G mobile is capable of viewing volumetric characters and motion capture characters and streaming that bandwidth. But really, it was around the headsets that we wanted to kind of approach it. So coming from the very top tier premium experience, even though it's tethered and it's still a bit industrial at the moment, how high could you raise the bar in the individual experience and then work on scale and cutting the cord and making it mobile? This system here, this is actually me from 2 weeks ago. We were over in Europe testing out this new system called Lynx R1. So we've been working with Vario, and we work with Vario quite a lot. We're a software developer partner. And so the difference with this headset is it gives video pass-through. So solid holograms in the world, and you're able to interact with them, and it anchors these things into physical infrastructure as well. This is where it's headed, the technology in general. So color video pass-through with hand tracking and world tracking, totally mobile and pixel streamed, so high quality media going to a mobile device. And then, obviously everyone's talking about the Apple glasses and things like that. That'll come, but we'll get there. And so the system itself is really built around a kind of reality technology stack, and so it's combining motion capture and volumetric capture, and then using mixed reality to kind of create these experiences. But why even build anything around a door itself? It's really something that we're exploring, and there's a lot of hand controllers and reaching out and touching nothing in these experiences. we want to kind of bring it back into something that's a bit more universal. Everyone knows how to use a door or what it represents to them. And so you can really lean into that for a narrative experience. So a doorway, you think of Narnia or Stargate or any of these kind of fictional films and stories that we're used to. Everyone is intrigued by the idea of stepping through a doorway to another place. But it also can mean different things. So, it can be a blocker. It can be something of mystery. You can think of it as an escape, for example, or entrance into another place. And so we decided to kind of build an ecosystem around that. And so what we do is, once you start breaking that down into portal mechanics, it starts with a very simple idea. So as you approach an archway, it detects your proximity. And then the core innovation that we've been working on is something called threshold, which is a way of creating a very, very stable and robust line between the physical world and the virtual world. Once we've achieved that with the right infrastructure in our studio initially, you can put these things together and have an experience where a fictional character walks through the archway into your world. And then we've built the kind of technology that you can interact live with that digital character, the avatar. And so we can create avatar systems, or we can create volumetric characters, which are real people walking out of the arch itself. And then once they invite you back into their world, you can walk back through, and it becomes a fully virtual experience. And so it's and you'll see in the video that's coming up, there are these shots where you kind of turn round, and then the real world is back through the archway from the physical world, and for some reason it looks fake when you're in the experience. It's a very odd experience in general. And so we were very, very lucky. We're working with Warner Media, they're an incredible media partner, and they were very generous in letting us work with some of their IP. So Aquaman and Adventure Time. And so we worked with them on their pipeline, and it's one of the bigger challenges that we're facing is around how do you create high value IP experiences based on film properties and story properties. And so it was really around taking their assets from Adventure Time. Does anybody not know what Adventure Time, or does know what Adventure Time is? Yeah, you do. It's a kids cartoon for adults, basically. It's been running about 10 years. It's these incredible characters. This guy Finn and his dog Jake, that's like this kind of plasticine dog. They go on these big adventures, and this is the land of Oo, which is where they live in a treehouse, and it's all very bizarre and a little bit surreal and a lot of fun. But then similarly with Aquaman, we were very, very lucky to get some of the original assets. So you can see the sunken galleon, that's actually from one of the big scenes in the movie, and that was the original raw asset that we got. So we had to go through a process of developing that. We got to work with, we couldn't deal with the lead cast because that's a very complicated deal to kind of work with recognizable faces, and so we were given this kind of like Atlantean soldier character we call Fishy Guy. That's our name for him. But yeah, so it was around 6 or 7 months of pushing this pipeline through, and I've got a short video here just to kind of show you that process and the result that came about from it. portal test, Vario XR3 with the character encounter for Adventure Time. That's a digital arch anchored over a physical structure, and then once you kind of come around the other side, you can actually step through into that world. Pretty cool. If anybody finds themselves in the UK, we will be delivering this over in the US and through different territories. But if anybody finds themselves in the UK, then you should come and see us. We've got this thing set up permanently and a few different versions of it as well. So we'd be happy to host you and show you the experience and try it for yourself. And so. Why? I mean, what is the actual application of this stuff? Where would it actually go? And really, it's used for two things, and it's designed in two ways. One for production, and the other is for audience experiences. Now, if you think about the film industry and the television industry, everybody works to this device, the screen. And even when you're looking through a diopter in a camera, you're looking at a screen. And so it's a recognized standard, 16 by 9 and various other kind of aspect ratios. But what is the equivalent in spatial media, holographic media, and the production of that as well? So, over the last 10 years, I've been involved with over 130 immersive projects, and almost every single one of those was a bespoke brief with a bespoke solution, a bespoke delivery. And so it's time to kind of take it a little bit of a step back and work out how can you standardize some of these processes so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And so that's why we think about this as an infrastructure project or product. So we can design this system with the interactions of the characters in the worlds and then deliver that out to market in various places. And once you have these arch systems in multiple places, it actually becomes a transport network, because you can build in one location, design it in one location. So we can be in our Forge facility in the north of England, design the experience, press play, and then it will kind of appear in another location. And we can have the actors in the UK, or they can be anywhere in the world. And so once you have the infrastructure and the network together, and as I said, we do motion capture, but we also do volumetric capture. So you were seeing there that it was a fiction, Aquaman, one of the fishy guy kind of coming out. But we can also do it so that when you look through the arch, it's actually another physical place with a real person on the other side. So as a tool for production and then delivery, we're kind of thinking of it in that way. But really, from the organisations that we work with, for them, it's also vital that this is a useful device as well. So it's a transactional system. You are gathering. You can charge an entrance fee to these experiences, for example, as you go through. If it's all connected to a mobile app that's part of the media organisation, or you have your own preferences about what the experiences you'll see. It becomes a smart system where it's very tailored to either yourself as an individual or a group of people at a location. And then it can also, detect your preferences, and this is where you really start to leverage the idea of 5G and its kind of power to cross-stream data and information. And so it becomes a useful device in that respect. As far as where it would go, this is an example of DC Fandom. So pre-COVID, everyone would go to these big events, and this was a map from a physical location with different areas, very similar to this event here at South by. But now, as we move forward, it's completely hybrid audiences. Some of them will be there in person, but some of them want to visit from elsewhere. And so these types of devices become even more important to delivering fan experiences. So the latest version of Wonder Woman or Batman, or the kind of the latest launch can come from one place in LA or wherever and appear in all of these different locations, and so fans can have these experiences across the metaverse in the physical world. And so we think of the metaverse as the connective tissue between physical locations. That's how we approach it. But similarly in retail, in theme parks, in themed attractions, this is where this system would go. And so how do we achieve that? It's really kind of taking that to scale. So number one, that's the Forge. That's our kind of engine room facility. And then what we're doing is we're sending out these developer kits, which is a very involved developer kit, but it's a very powerful PC with an arch system, with a mixed reality system, and it can either be included with motion capture capabilities or pre-recorded experiences. And then it's really getting people to experience it. I mean, this is a perfect example. You guys are hearing about it today, but it's very involved as an install right now. And so we're looking at these experience centers where people can come and try it and then go, oh, okay, well, I would use it for this, story, world, or character. And we go from there. And then that's where it will scale up. People can sign it off, experience it, and then see how it will apply to elsewhere. So yeah, once we get all of that built, just really comes down to one question, which is, if you were to experience this thing, you could go anywhere and meet any character. Where would you go, and what would you do? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks very much. We'd love to, yeah.
Any questions about how that all works?
How involved is the install? Is it days, weeks?
It's about a week. For the first time in December, we took this thing outside the lab, and we've got like the perfect environment in our studio, and so packing it all up and shipping it overseas, it went into like a giant tube, and all the computer systems had to go overseas, and then it took about a week to build it up and get all of the kind of pipeline organized. But once it's up and running, it can just go and go and go. So yeah.
What sort of size room would you need?
It's got a pretty small footprint, and that's one of the advantages of it. For places like retail, is you could do it in this room. It really is. You do need two spaces if you're doing the live interactions, because what you're doing is you're creating two, like an experience space and then a performance space, and then you fold them together over the threshold, it's kind of pickles your brain a little bit when you're figuring it out, but once it's set up, it just kind of works. So you have the performer in one room, and they've got a kind of just basic boundaries of where an arch would be. They can, they've got a face tracking system on, and they can see through a kind of display what the arch in the other place can see. So they can see people walking around the arch in the other location. The reason that's important is for eye line. So if a character's walking out and they can look you in the eye, but they're a totally fictional character, you're then onto something as a really interesting live interaction. But then in the experience side, it's a big physical infrastructure, but the actual footprint can be quite small. the challenge is, of course, when you walk through to the other world, you really want to keep on walking. And so we have a couple of challenges where people have walked into walls and things. So you've just got to shepherd that a little bit and kind of work with it in that way.
It has to be a closed space though, or can it be out in the park?
That's a good question. Ideally, you would have a really, really big space. The challenge with outside is just the technology itself. So the tracking technologies, they don't really like direct sunlight. They tend to start throwing you around the room, or it's throwing you around. If it gets a little bit confused, because it does use laser and infrared. It's but we can do it outside under cover, for example. And once you cut the cord on the headset and you're able to just walk free, that's the ideal.
To what extent is the door a conceptual? I mean, I understand the concept of the doorway, and you've communicated that really well. How constraining is that technically?
Well, we've had this question a little bit as well. It's like, do you even need the physical arch? Like, because already, you can see videos online of these portals opening and people walking through. There's a couple of challenges around that. Most of the videos that you've seen are from a single camera source, and so it's not getting it in really robust stereo is very, very. It's proven to be very complex, but we're happy to say we've achieved it. But then the physical arch itself, it's as much psychological as it is, part of the experience. So let me see if I can actually just bring this up here. So
I'm just thinking, even just from a commission point of view, if they said, I'd like a door that's just a bit wider, slightly different
yeah.
shape, does that suddenly put everything else?
No, not at all. It could be as big as this room, because the principle is just the fictional line between the physical world and the virtual world. The frame it does three main things. One, it's aware of its surroundings, so it and then it anchors the experience. So it anchors the physical and the digital, but it also has DMX lighting inside it. So when you've got the mixed reality headset and it opens up and you've got light spilling onto the physical floor, it just totally sells it as an experience. And then the other thing is that it's kind of in its raw form, it's an aluminium frame, but you could put a stone arch over the top of it, and just being able to put your hand on that thing, and when you reach out, it's there. It really does sell it. So it's about these ways of anchoring the experience as a real memory. But it can be any shape. It could be round. It could be. We're working on an experience at the moment where it's a crack in a wall. So you've got to squeeze through. It was designed in this particular way for this version, just so that multiple people can kind of see through it, and it's got a wide aperture. But we do versions with door handles. It's more like a Narnia system, where when you turn the handle, it's got a mechanism inside with Wi-Fi. It triggers the next world, and so you can open, close, and it's like worlds, and then you can step through and go that way.
Since some of it is live, can you also use it to have conversations? Can you also maybe talk to the other guy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely two. So we partner with a company called Faceware. They do the facial capture. Then we've got comm systems through the other side. The bigger challenge is the kind of global infrastructure at the moment. It's getting faster, but latency is our biggest challenge right now.
Can it be seen as like a meta FaceTime?
Yeah. Yes, exactly that. So you can use it for production. So the idea is you would have one in the studio system, and then headquarters where all the execs sign off content, and you can meet in a shared space, or you can just fold it all together and walk straight from your room into their room and have a conversation. One of you is either an avatar or a volumetric streaming character. And so you can, and fifth, why is that important? Well, for sign off of character designs or world designs, that kind of thing. It's kind of can be used for that, and then it goes straight into production for the end user.
I think as well there's a clip we didn't get to show you of the Adventure Time assets, and what's really lovely about it is they come, you're in the real world and they come out and they're really playful and they invite you in like a cha-cha-cha, and you have to go in and follow them in. And I know AR can do this, but it's just so context unaware, so it's like a character on a table, or it doesn't really have any intelligence of its environment, and the story isn't really necessary there. So having the archway, I think that's one thing that a lot of IP holders and people who have characters really like is, you know, they want people to engage with things that have never been physical, but being able to sort of control that environment and that context and how the story works, it's just more appealing to them than just, oh, I can see it on my phone. It's just so, I think when AR started, everyone was so excited, but like, then what? You're kind of instantly bored, you know? Or you can collect things, which has worked really well for Pokemon Go, but we're trying to do something quite different to collecting things. It's about that fun and that interaction. And it's evolving all the time, you know, the technology is evolving all the time. So we can show you this actually.
Well, this was so the video that we showed was a kind of compilation of various bits, but this was the day that we actually achieved the threshold experience. You'll see it in a bit more detail of how the mechanics work.
This is Portal Test, Vario XR3, with the character encounter for Adventure Time.
So yeah, you can see the blue arch, which is now more detailed, is there. When you kind of walk around this side, you create the aperture, and so you can see you can lean left and lean right and see the world. It's very, very robust as an experience. And it's just totally seamless. You walk in and it's just there. These were very early character movements. They were just, it was actually from a video game where they were fighting. We turned it into dancing instead. We can control this reality flow through the gate, so you can go from the physical world into a fictional world, but then from a fictional world to another fictional world, and just keep going back and forth, or through multiple arches, or you can stand and there's 5 arches and you've got various places to go, and then at any time we can shut it off, and then you just walk back out into the physical world, and it kind of, it's one of the biggest head trips is actually when you walk through. You're seeing the place and you walk around the other side, and then suddenly there's been no big transition, but when you walk back around, it's suddenly a freestanding arch in a totally fictional world. And so it starts to open up new perception experiences as well, which is, you know, that what we've been trying to get to is that what next, you know, how do you develop it further? So it is like Inception in the real world, yes. Yeah, layers and layers of meta experiences.
And it's very much about, you know, building the tools for the storytelling. Like there's a lot of tools for tools' sake going on, where the technology, and this is kind of what we were saying at the beginning, you know, they're just not really about the audiences of the characters. It's like, look at this cool thing you can do, but what does that actually have to do with the story?
Yeah.
So really this is the, the beginning stage of what you can do with the story once you have the tool, which is really interesting. What's that engagement and how does it work? So that's, definitely something we're looking at with a number of partners who are really keen to get this in physical spaces. And they all have different stories and different tools, and they're going to look very different and feel very different when they happen there as well. So yeah, we're really excited about that next stage.
Wonderful. Okay.
Any other?
I mean, There's the Aquaman video as well, which is kind of shows a lot more of the character interaction as well. I mean, I can just go and plug that in if that would make sense.
So are you guys working in anyone working in anything similar to this, or? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. What kind of stuff do you do?
Right now we're doing mostly augmented reality, so we're with the studio on the US West Coast.
Yeah.
So we're doing location-based AR and then social AR as well. But the history of the studio is more in the actual physical space, so that's exactly what I want to be in.
Yeah.
Space of combining those two and creating real. I liked how you said creating real-world memories. Right? I think that's the shareability and building those memories is really important for it to become a medium that can sustain and is not just a gimmick.
Yeah. There's a lot of technique for the sake of technique, but we're just trying to work on something that is motivated by what you want to do or where you want to go.
I think it's an adequate storytelling medium for our times, for our generation.
Yeah.
And we have had actors in these as well, where there's a character that's really there and it's really happening. So the door is, one anchor, but there can be other anchors as well. So, I'm sure you've been to some of the other talks. There's a lot of theatre people in this game as well, of physical, because they're so good at doing that. So that's really, again, what this tool is for. It's about you can layer more in the real world on this if you want to, but as a standalone, it's really good. But if you want to make it richer and fuller and more performative, you can as well. So, we're really keen. And we've just had really great feedback from audiences who are using it and who've used it. So, yeah.
Just going to get it out to more places.
Yeah.
That's the next stage. Thank you very much, everyone. If you've got any questions, let us know.